for a job, you want to look online. You have things like Monster, Career Builder. Yeah, there's job search apps. Craigslist has jobs. Be careful. There's a lot of scammy kind of jobs listed on Craigslist. Yeah. So I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of scams out there. Even on Craigslist, even on Career Builder and Monster, there's scams. There are employment scams. So Monster, Google, company web pages, like the company web page itself. Well, yeah, I was going to get there. Newspaper. Then there are employment agencies. And there are different levels of employment agencies. There are private and government. And then you have employment agencies, and then you also have something called a temp agency, which we'll talk about that as well. Okay, so yeah, a lot of places are getting away from like the paper applications though. So even when you go in, they'll tell you to go online. A lot of them do. But I was going to also say like word of mouth or walk around.
They tell you to go online and their sites are like impossible to navigate.
Abbreviations that get used in classified ads. AGCY stands for agency. This is if this position is through an employment agency of some sort, which means there may or may not be a fee for you to get the job. And we'll talk about that too. This is for an assistant. So that's an assistant position. This one wants somebody to be bilingual. And it'll usually say this with a specific language after it, like Spanish or French or whatever language they're looking for. In this area, typically Spanish, but not always. This one is they're looking for somebody that is computer literate. Okay. Basically, if they're talking about computer literacy, they want you to know your basic office applications, Microsoft Word, Excel, how to use the internet, like just basic things. Email resume. That's where they want you to send them a resume. They don't have an actual application. This one requires evenings. This one, you have to be experienced. Here where it says fee paid, they pay the fee. Okay, so if it says agency and fee paid, that means that they're paying the fee for the employment agency. If it says agency and it does not say fee paid, you have to call and ask. They may or may not be. They're just not specifying. So just because it does not say fee paid doesn't mean you have to pay a fee. Okay, full-time on this one. Good. K is 1,000. Part-time. This one comes with paid vacation as a benefit. This is required, so anything that comes before that means you have to have that. So they might say like, you know, bachelor's required or something. This is like a range of salary where it will say 2 something, so that's like the highest level that it might pay. So like, you know, $2 $10 an hour, it'll it means that they're paying based on experience or something, but the highest you could possibly make would be like the $10. And then with, they have to use the abbreviations because it keeps the cost of the ad down. Because when you're buying an ad, you're paying per line. It'll say like, you know, so many lines for this amount of money, and then every additional line is so much more money. So you abbreviate everything you possibly can so that you pay for less lines. All right, so we have some vocabulary. We have an employment agency, and an employment agency is a business that specializes in getting people jobs. Okay, and they typically fall under two different categories. You have temporary agencies, and then you have like a permanent type of thing. Okay, with the temp agencies, this can be either to cover vacations or illnesses. So if you get employed by a temp agency, what happens is, let's say you're employed by a temp agency and you have general office skills. You may work for 2 days over here and a week over there and maybe a month over here because you're covering various different people that are going out on vacation or that are having to take sick time for whatever reason, maybe maternity leave, maybe they've lost somebody that quit or got fired, so they need somebody in there right away until they hire a new person. And on those kind of situations, a lot of times, if you do a good job, they will hire the temp that they bring in. So they also do what's called temp to hire. And the reason they do this is because it's cost effective for them. They get to cover their employee that's missing for whatever reason, so the workload is covered. But on a temp to hire situation, it's cost effective for them because you're a temp. They don't have to fire you. If they don't like you, they just call the temp agency and say it's not working out. The temp agency pulls you and puts somebody else in so they can try you out and see if you're a good fit for the company and if you do a good job. It's easier for them than going through the process of going through interviews and all that, and then they hire somebody and then that person doesn't work out, and then they have to fire them, and then they have to go through all these interview processes again. The temp agency did all that for them. Interviewed you, tested your skills, so the company knows when they call the temp agency and says, I need somebody that can type 50 words a minute, that knows how to use Microsoft Office, that can handle a phone system with 10 lines, then the temp agency already knows who fits those criteria, and they send them, and then if it works, they hire you. So it's kind of nice. And then you have permanent agencies, which may charge a fee. Now the temp agencies don't charge a fee because you actually work for the temp agency. But with a regular employment agency, they may charge a fee. Sometimes the employer or the prospective employer pays those fees. Sometimes they don't. It just sort of depends. These are usually kind of for more specialized jobs, not typically for like an office worker, but you get into the jobs that are like a trade, welders, you know, electricians, like a skilled trade kind of a job, or like a higher education type of job or specialization, like a dermatologist or, you know, something specialized. These are typically more specialized. They're not your general, like, Target's not going to go through an employment agency to get employees. But if somebody's looking for an arc welder, they might. And these agencies, like I said, they are looking for people in specialized positions typically. And when you hear the term headhunting, have you heard that? People get headhunted. If you work in certain fields and you're really good in your field, for example, you're a good attorney and you're working at a firm, but you're not a partner in the firm, you just work at the firm, but you've got a good reputation and stuff, Other companies, employment agencies, will do what's called headhunting. They'll find employees at some jobs that are doing really well in certain specializations and try to steal them for other companies because they know you're doing a good job, so they want you to come work for them instead, kind of a thing. And those type of agencies as well. The fee paid is when the employer pays the fee. Now, on some instances, the prospective employee pays the fee. For example, if you go to an employment agency, like let's say you just finished college and you got your degree, but you do not know the first thing about going out and finding a job as an advertised copywriter or something. But that's what you want to do. But you've got your degree, but you don't know where to go. You can hire an employment agency to do the searching for you and find the available jobs and get you a job. And in those instances, you would pay the fee. But in other instances, the employer pays the fee, and you just respond to an ad. Okay. Your resume is a 1 to 2, preferably 1, page account of your experience and education. Oh, and skills. You want your resume to be short. Okay, there's two different things that you can turn in for looking for jobs. One is a resume and the other one is called a curriculum vitae. Curriculum vitaes are typically limited to people in sort of the more academic-y fields. Psychologists, psychiatrists, people that publish papers and do research, because you list everything in a curriculum vitae. You say, okay, here's me, this is me. These are all the jobs I had and everything I did at those jobs. And this is all the education I had, and these are all the extra classes I took and the seminars I went to, and here's the papers I've written, and here's the thing I did over here, and these are the memberships it's like this big, long, multi-page, hey, look at me, I'm fantastic. But those are for very specialized fields typically. A resume is what most everybody else uses. In a resume, you want it to be short, because when somebody's looking through a big stack of resumes, if you send them a 4-page resume, they're probably not even going to look at it. You want to try to keep it to 1 page, and you want to list your experience, your skills, your education, and your job objective. And we will go over how to write a resume to help out. Your W-4 withholding allowance certificate is used for tax purposes. This is where you indicate how much you claim, and it tells them how much taxes to take out. Now, everybody in here is single, correct? Nobody's married. Anybody have kids? No kids, okay. Everybody in here is single with no children. That means on your W-4 you can technically claim 2. Now, if you claim 2, they are going to take out the bare minimum amount of income tax, which means you will either just barely break even or you will owe money at the end of the year. Never claim as many as the worksheet on this thing tells you you can. Claim at least 1 less. They will take out a little bit more money, but you won't owe at the end of the year. You might still break even. My recommendation is, if you're single and you have no children, claim 0. They will take out the most amount in taxes out of your check, but you will get a refund at the end of the year. Okay? Provided there's not other extenuating circumstances, like you worked as an independent contractor or something like that. That can change that. But if you have the one job and you claim 0, you should be good. Yeah, of course. Benefits. Some jobs offer these, some don't. They include things like a retirement plan. Health insurance. Other kinds of insurance. So like medical, vision, dental, disability, life insurance, things like that can be offered by your employer. Paid vacation, paid sick leave. And then there's other kinds of benefits, like, if you work for Google, they have free snacks and nap rooms. Some employers have flexible scheduling, because maybe your job doesn't technically require that you're there from 9 to 5, just that you put in 8 hours a day, so they might let you schedule from like 3 to 11 or something, so there's different kinds of benefits that you might be offered on your job, but these are the most common. Okay, we have we talked about, let me pause that, the example problem. So if we have an annual salary of 41K, it's got your name, that's 41,000. And we want to know what the weekly salary is. There's 52 weeks in a year. So we take that 41,000 and divide it by 52. And you're going to get $788.46 weekly before taxes. And any other deductions that there might be. Okay, an annual salary of 67.3K. The point becomes the comma. So it's $67,300 per year. We're going to find out her monthly pay, so we're going to divide that by 12. And monthly, 5608.33 before deductions. Okay, Dylan took a job through an employment agency and it pays $395 per week. And Dylan must pay the fee to the employment agency, and the fee is 20% of the first 4 weeks' pay. Okay, so we take the weekly pay and we multiply that by 4 to get the first 4 weeks' pay. And that's going to be $1,580. And then it's 20% of that. So I'm going to take that 20%, turn it into a decimal by moving 2 places. And then I do 0.2 times 1,580. And the fee is going to be $316. This type of formula, this is known as a piecewise function. And what it does is it describes a function that changes. Okay, so it's a changing function. Okay, and here's how it works. When x is less than or equal to 4, it's going to be 56. Okay. If x is greater than 4, it's going to be this equation here. So if we're talking about a classified ad, if we're talking about classified ads, this is saying that ads up to $4 are going to cost $56, or 4 lines, sorry. Ads up to 4 lines are going to be $56, flat fee. If you have more than 4 lines, It's $56 plus 6 times the number of lines minus 4. Basically what this is saying is it's $6 per line extra. Okay. But you use the function. I mean, you don't have to use the function. You could say, okay, they're doing a 12-line ad. 4 lines is $56. So that means they're going to have 8 extra lines, and then multiply 8 times 6, and then add it to 50, have to figure it out piece by piece. Or you can just plug 12 in to the function. Because 12 is greater than 4, we know we need to use this part. So I plug in the 12. So that's 56 plus 48. So that's going to be a $104 ad. Sometimes you have a discount the more things you get. I'm sure you guys have seen that before, where like if you buy 1, it costs this much. If you buy 2, they're a little bit discounted. Well, that's what this is if you buy 1, they're $395 each. If you buy 2, they're $385 each. If you buy 3, they're $375 each, etc. And then you get 5 to 20, and this is the discount. So the percent savings if you decide to post 4 jobs, okay? If we don't have a savings, it would be 4 times $395, which would be $1580. With the discount, it's 4 times $350. So it's $1,400. Oops. Okay. So this is no discount, and this is with a discount. Okay. So the percent savings or percent change is the percent change formula. If you take the new minus the original and you divide it by the original, that's always how you find the percent change. The discounted would be the new. So I'm going to do 1,400 minus 1,580 over 1,580. So that's negative 180. Divided by 1,580, and that's going to give me a negative 0.1139. So that's 11.4% discount. Okay, so if we're talking about a 25 job, we're going to take the same process. I'm going to do 25 times 395, which will give me 98.75. Or I do 25 times 265, because that's how much it's discounted to. Which gives me 66.25. And then I'll calculate the discount. So if you buy 4 job ads, you're getting an 11% discount. But if you buy 25, you're getting a 32% discount. Pretty much the point of this is if you're a business owner and you know you're going to be doing some hiring of multiple people, sometimes it might be better to go ahead and wait until you have all of the positions that you want to advertise for figured out and do them all at once and get that discount rather than do them one at a time as they come up. Does that make sense? $29.95 to print 200 high-quality copies of a one-page resume. Each additional 100 copies is $14. That's a typo, I think. Hold on one. Typo fixed. $30 for 100 copies, $14 for each additional 100 copies. Pete needs 77 copies. Should he pay individually for 77 copies or buy 100? Okay, so 77 copies are going to be 39 cents each. $100 is $29.95. Which does it make more sense to do? Buy the 100, right? Okay. Maybe you're going to have 23 extra copies that you don't need, but you're going to save 8 cents, and maybe 8 cents is not that big of a deal. But what if you put out these 77 resumes and you don't get a job? When you do this, you're going to have 20 extra resumes that you can then put out if you need to. So it makes more sense to buy the 100 in bulk. Okay, so you've got pay periods: weekly, bi-weekly, semi-monthly, or monthly. Weekly is usually the same day every week, Friday, Thursday, whatever day they decided was your payday, and you get 52 paychecks per year. Bi-weekly is every other week, and it falls that you get 2 months out of the year, you'll get 3 paychecks instead of just 2, because 52 divided by 2 is 26. So when you're doing bi-weekly, 2 months out of the year, you end up with 3 checks. You get 26 paychecks per year. Semi-monthly, you get paid twice per month. Most places do the 1st and the 15th. Not all of them, but most of them. So you get 24 paychecks per year. And monthly, you get once a month. It's a set date. It's the 1st, the 15th, or the last day of the month for most people. So you're getting 12 paychecks per year. Monthly is probably the hardest to budget because you're only getting paid once, and then you go 30 to 31 days before you get any more money in. Yes. So you have to budget carefully, because if you don't budget carefully, you run out of money before you run out of month. So, you know, if you're getting paid monthly, that's when you have to be really tight with your budget. You have to really know exactly how much money you can spend. When you're semi-monthly and bi-weekly are probably the easiest two to budget. Bi-weekly is nice because if you're budgeting every other week, or you're budgeting about 2 paychecks a month, 2 months out of the year, you're going to get that extra money, which is kind of cool. And then weekly, it's hard to budget weekly, mostly because sometimes the 1 week paycheck isn't enough to cover the bills that are due that week, or so you have to. It's kind of like monthly. You have to really be in charge of your spending. Yeah. So direct deposit is when the employer deposits the paycheck directly into the bank account. There are a few benefits on this. Number 1, you don't have to go to the bank. Now, I know that most of you probably don't have to go to the bank anyway, because you can just take a picture of your check with your phone and deposit it like electronically or whatever, but still. You don't even have to do that. Number 2 is you usually get your check faster. Some places post your direct deposit at midnight on that day. Whereas if you have to go to work and actually get a check, you're not going to get it until probably that afternoon. Plus, if you go and deposit an actual check, usually there's a 1 or 2 day hold at the least before it clears your account. With direct deposit, the money's available immediately.
Yeah, I don't have direct deposit where I work, but if at Navy Federal, if you deposit anything under 400,
They'll clear it right away. Yeah, it just depends on the bank. But, and then like, you know, most of them, if you don't deposit before 2 p.m., then it's not available till the next day. So if you don't get off work till after 2 p.m., you can't deposit it. You know what I mean? So there's just little little things. You usually get your money faster with direct deposit. And you don't waste paper. So it's better for the environment. Okay, your hourly rate. There's people that are on salary and there's people that are paid hourly. Salaried people, it's X amount of money per year, period. Like you make that much money per year. Hourly, it's based on the number of hours you actually work. Your hourly rate is the amount you're paid per hour. And with hourly pay, you can get overtime. With salary, there is no overtime. So with hourly rates, you have regular hours and overtime hours. Regular hours are up to 40 hours per week. 40 hours is 35 to 40 hours are considered full-time. So somewhere between there, 35 to 40. So up to 40 hours per week, and 8 hours or 10 hours per day. It depends on the state. The state regulates what constitutes overtime. We're just going to go by 8. If you work more than 40 hours in a week or more than 8 hours in a day, if you're in an 8-hour state, then you have to be paid overtime legally, unless you're on salary. Okay. Overtime hours are any of those hours over 40 per week or over 8 per day, and they're paid at a higher rate. And the overtime hourly rate will either be time and a half or double time. Most overtime is paid at time and a half. That's most overtime. Usually double time is only paid like on holidays or things like that. But so it's 1.5 times the regular pay rate. So if you make $5 an hour, you get $7.50 for overtime. $5 an hour is illegal, by the way. Yeah, I'm just a fast, easy number for me to do. Okay, minimum wage is federal and state mandated. So the federal government has set a minimum wage, but the individual states are allowed to set higher minimum wages if they want to. They're not allowed to set a lower minimum wage. So the federal minimum wage is the absolute minimum, and then the states will either keep the federal minimum and match it, or they'll go higher. You have your states like California, New York, things where the cost of living is really high, tend to have a much higher minimum wage than the federal. Is paid on a biweekly basis, and her annual salary is $37,000. What is her biweekly salary? Yeah, Nearest has lots of extra A's today. Okay. So biweekly, remember, is every other week, so there's 26 paychecks. Right, yeah. So it's 37,000 divided by 26, which brings her to $1423.08 per paycheck. Okay. Manny, however, is paid semi-monthly. This is twice a month, so that's 24 paychecks. His semi-monthly salary is $12.39. So what is his annual salary? Well, he's getting $12.39 24 times. So we're going to multiply that. And his annual salary is $29,736. Okay. Then we have Maureen, who works at Chicken King. Yeah, Chicken King. It's like Chick-fil-A and Burger King had a baby and made Chicken King. Okay. Her regular hourly wage is $9.70, and she works 40 hours per week. So what's her regular pay? We're going to take the $9.70. We're going to multiply it by 40. And she's going to make $3.88 per week. Maureen works overtime. She gets 1.5 times her regular hourly. So what's her overtime rate? 1.5 times $9.70. Her overtime rate is $14.35. 55. So anytime she goes over 40 hours, she's going to get $14.55 an hour. Okay, Janice earns $10 an hour, and her regular hours are 40 hours per week. And she gets time and a half overtime, so she worked 45 hours. So she's going to have 40 hours at her regular pay. And she's going to have 5 hours at her overtime pay, which is 1.5 times 10. Okay, so this is regular pay, this is overtime pay. Okay, so 5 times 1.5 times 10 is going to be 75. So her pay is going to be $475 that week. Bless you. This one, we're going to go backwards. We know that she worked 40 hours of regular pay and 7 hours of overtime at time and a half, and that her pay was $61.05. But you see how when we look at this problem, here's her pay rate. We don't know this pay rate, but we can set the problem up the same. 40x is the regular hours, and 7 overtime hours at 1.5 times x for overtime. So x is regular, and 1.5x is overtime. So, and that altogether equaled $611.05. So first I have to do 7 times 1.5. So that's 40x plus 10.5x. And then add those together. Then divide both sides by 50.5. And her hourly rate is $12.10. Okay, so from these two problems, the overtime calculation, you're going to have regular, so 40 times regular plus, we'll say extra hours times OT times regular. So this is either 1.5 or 2 is equal to pay. Does that make sense? So that's kind of the setup on this. Okay, so commission. Commission is money made based off the sales you make. You can either get a straight commission job or you can get a commission salary combination job. Straight commission, okay, so like a real estate agent works off of a straight commission. They only make money if they sell a house. It can be hard to live off of commissions, yes. There are some places that do a commission salary combo. You get paid an hourly rate. It's pretty low usually. And then you get a commission off of the sales that you make on top of your hourly rate. That would be the commission salary combo. Also, it can be a flat fee or a percent. Here, yeah, item. Yeah. Okay, royalties are a special kind of commission. These are paid on artistic endeavors, musicians, authors, actors, things like that make royalties. So a royalty is a commission, but it's a special kind of commission. Like Stephen King makes royalties off of his book sales. Yes, you have to pay the author, yeah, for the right to use the play. Piecework, you are paid per item that you complete or produce. This can be either, like a lot of times it's sewing work or putting things together. There's a word for that, but I can't think of it right now. Yes, assembly, thank you. Also, it can be agricultural, like fruit pickers get paid like per the basket that they will gather, or cotton picking or things like that. So that also can be. Job? Yeah. Pick lots of stuff, yeah. But no, there's like some piecework is done at home. Like I've known people that have done like assembled ball bearing things or something at their house, and then they get paid for how many they do. So they just sit there and watch TV and assemble these things. Like, it's not a ton of money, but
What's nice about it though is that I used to sell computers.
mm-hmm.
And
Piecework. Piecework rate, it gives you a specific amount of money paid per item, and it can vary. Sometimes, like if you make 1 to 5, they'll pay this much, and then if you make 5 to 10, they'll pay you this other amount, and that goes higher and higher for the more you do, because they're trying to encourage you to produce more. So that's the piecework rate. So Adriana wrote a textbook, and she gets a 10% royalty, and the book sells for $47.95 because it's a textbook. That's a pretty cheap textbook, actually. And 17,000 copies were sold last year. So we take the 17,000. Actually, I don't want to do that in red. We take the 17,000 copies and we multiply it by the $47.95 to get the total sales. And the total sales were $815,150. Okay, she gets 10% of the total sales. So her commission is 10% times that $815,150. So she gets $81,515. Actually, I should put royalties. Allison sells cosmetics part-time from door to door, so that could be Avon or Mary Kay, or I think that's it. Yeah. Okay, well, whatever. She's paid a monthly commission, spelled wrong. She receives 11% of her first $900 and 17% anything over $900. That's one of those sliding scale things. So last month she sold $1,250 worth of cosmetics. So first we're going to take the $1,250 and we're going to subtract $900 from it. So she has $350 over. Okay. So this part is going to be at the 11%, and this part is going to be at the 17%. So we'll do 900 times 11% and 350 times 17%, and this will give us her commission. So that's $99, and this is $59.50. So last month she made a whopping $158.50. This is Kate works in a dress factory. She gets paid $85 per unit, so per dress that she makes. She made 3 dresses yesterday. She gets $85 each. So yesterday she made $255. Okay, anyway, Tony picks strawberries and he gets paid 45 cents per container for the first 200. The little, I'm thinking they're the little, the little basket things that strawberries come in. The little green baskets, yeah. So he gets 45 cents for the first 200, and then 65 cents for every container over 200, and he picked 270 last week. So he's getting 200 at 45 cents and 70 at 65 cents. So Tony is making a whopping $135.50 per week on average. Glassman Chevrolet pays commission to its salespeople, and it's percent of the profit. So not the actual price of the car, but the profit made on the car. And you know, if you've ever been and dealt with a car salesman, they'll cut off so much of the price, but they can't go too far, because the further they go, the less their commission is going to be, because the commission is off of that profit margin. So if the profit is under 750, they get 20%. If it's at least 750 or up to 1,000, they get 22%, and if it's above 1,000, they get 25%. So we're going to compare 749 and 750 and 1,000 and 1,001, because here's how it works. 20% is less than 750. 750 to 1,000 is going to be 25%. And then, or 22%, sorry. And then 25% is going to be greater than or equal to 1,000. Okay, so if it's yeah, that's a 22. So if it's if it's anything exactly 750 to exactly 1,000, they get 22%. If it's below 750, they get 20%, and if it's above 1,000, they get 25%. So $749 profit versus a $750 profit, that's a difference of 2% on the commission. That $1 will make that difference. And $1,000 versus $1,001 is a 3% difference in profit or commission. So if they make a difference, just a $1 difference in the price that they sell the car for, that's the difference in how much they're going to make. That $1 earns them an extra $15 in commission. And if you're up in the $1,000 range, that's a $220 commission versus a $250 commission. That's a difference of $30 for them. That $1. So they know this. And they will not take off that $1 more, because they know that that's going to cut into their check that much. So there's only so far they'll go, and then that's it. They won't even go like 50 cents more. They're done. And finally, Joyce is going to work at Fortunato's Furniture, and she's paid on commission, and she gets 10% of the first 900 and 15% of the balance. Last week she earned $750. That's her pay. We want to know what was the total value of the furniture she sold. Okay, 10% up to 900. And then 15% of anything over 900 will give you her pay. Okay, so this is 90. And then that's 135. So I add the 90 and the negative 135 together, and I get negative 45. And then I add 45 to both sides. And then divide by 0.15. she sold $5,300 worth of furniture in order to earn $750.